Welcome to this info video on the Doctoral Networks Call 2026. My name is Isabel Spüler and I'm one of the Swiss national contact points for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action, short MSCA. In this video, I will introduce you what this funding scheme is all about and what you should keep in mind when you're preparing a proposal. The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, MSCA, has several actions, and the Doctoral Networks is one of the 4 major actions. All of the actions have in common that they are bottom-up, meaning it's open to all fields of research and innovation. There's no predefined topic. It's about excellence in research and innovation. And it is also about the career development of young researchers. And here we are already at the heart of the Doctoral Networks. So don't think that this proposal is like any other research project proposal. It's not. It's of course about an excellent research idea you have, but it is very much about training the next generation of scientists. So this is the main message I want to convey in this video. If you apply for the Doctoral Networks, it has to be at your heart that you want to train the next generation of scientists with the best opportunities within academia and outside academia. So as you can see, this call is not for those who want to do a PhD themselves, so it's not about young researchers writing their own individual projects. It's about a group of partner institutions, a consortium of different partners in countries, sectors, that together come up with a great idea of a training program. So you have institutions from academia and non-academic sectors, so industry, NGOs, startups, museum, name it what is important in your research field. And together they train a cohort of young scientists. So you can train 10 to 15 scientists up to 3 years, in a special case up to 4 years. And this is at the core of this funding scheme. So it's about training opportunities within and outside academia for a higher employability of these young researchers. So when you keep this in mind, I said these are partners, so a minimum 3 partners who recruit fellows, but normally there are more of 3 different countries from the academic and non-academic sector. And I come back to this magical number 3 because there are also 3 modalities that I need to introduce you here. So there's a standard doctoral network that has the highest flexibility how you want to create a doctoral network. Then there's the industrial doctorate. Here at the core is the idea that these PhD candidates spend at least half of their time in the non-academic sector. So in an industry, in a company, in a non-academic partner. And they have a joint supervision with an academic supervisor. And the third modality that is the most challenging is the so-called joint doctorate network. Here there's a joint supervision of 2 academic institutions and they have to come up with a joint degree at the end. And since this is really a challenge to have this structural change, there's this incentive that those candidates can have up to 4 years of recruitment funded by MSCA. So this also implies that the standard doctoral network and the industrial doctorate, they just have max 36 months of recruitment. So the project lifetime can be 4 years, but only 3 years of funding for their PhD. And most of the PhD candidates in Switzerland need about 4 years for their degree. So keep this in mind. Think about how you want to provide the last year. If you have your own funding, how do you want to cover this? Because ideally they have a degree at the end, of course. So these were the 3 modalities. And when it's about recruitment, this is very important in proposal. The recruitment process that has to be described needs to be open, transparent, merit-based. So you have to describe in your proposal how you want to do the recruitment process. And in addition, there is this mobility rule that has to be considered. So you cannot simply recruit somebody who did a master project in your lab and you know this person very well and you get along well. No, somebody that has not yet spent 12 months in the 3 years before the recruitment. So it is possible to recruit somebody who has just arrived in Switzerland, but this person should not have spent more than 12 months in Switzerland if you want to recruit this person in a Swiss institution. So the mobility rule is very, very important to consider. So now comes the next magical 3. So mobility rule is one of the rules. Then there's the 40% rule that is related to the budget. So no country should have more than 40% of the budget. And for this, you need to consider the country correction coefficient. I will talk about this later again. And the third rule is about the resubmission rule. So there's a restriction for those who have scored lower than 80%. They can't resubmit with the same proposal the year after. So they have to take a break or they have to change their submission with a different consortium with a different content. Now coming back to the 40% rule and the country correction coefficient. So of course you want to know what you get if you are successful with this proposal. So the doctoral networks, it covers the salary of these PhD candidates up to 3 years, unless it's a joint doctorate. And this salary is covered by the so-called living allowance multiplied by the country correction coefficient, that is quite high for Switzerland. The mobility allowance that all fellows receive automatically because they are mobile researchers. And the third allowance is the family allowance. So if a fellow is married or with a similar status or has a child, they will also receive every month a family allowance. So this is putting together the salary of the PhD candidate. This is quite a good salary for a PhD candidate in Switzerland. And in addition, every month the institution also receives allowances. There's one allowance about the research, training and networking. So if there are secondments foreseen, summer schools or the research project itself, there's a defined amount every month, plus an amount for the management and indirect cost. So while the other research, networking and training allowances is for the fellow itself, the fellow will never see the management and indirect costs. This goes to the institutions to host them, and part of it normally goes to the coordinators who needs a lot of resources to coordinate such a big project. The next magical 3 is the 3 main novelties that I want to introduce here. The first one is very technical and yet will have a big impact, especially for those who resubmit. So it is about the minimal font size. And while in the past it was possible to have a smaller font size in table, this is no longer the case. So every font size cannot be smaller than 11 point, independent if it's core text or table. So carefully consider if you want to use a table or not. The second novelty is about the length of secondment. So now, independent which modality you will use, if it's standard or industrial or joint doctorate, the secondment length can be up to the half length of the entire fellowship. So if somebody has 36 months, then it can be up to 18 months that this PhD candidate can go for secondment. So this gives a higher degree of flexibility. Just keep in mind, because there is no adaptation for the budget, meaning if you have a Swiss MSCA salary with the country correction for Switzerland and you go for secondment in a different country, there will be no adaptation. So for those who go for Switzerland somewhere else, this is normally not a problem since the Swiss country correction coefficient is very high. But if you want to host a young researcher coming for secondment to your institution, This is very important to keep in mind. If this person comes from a country with a lower country correction coefficient, it can be very expensive to live with this salary in Switzerland. Now coming to the third novelty, this is also very important to introduce, is about AI. And I talk about AI in research. So if your project is about AI in research, in your research project, then you basically have a second chance. So let's assume you have a very good proposal and yet you didn't make it. So you're not in the possible budget, you're below available budget. You can have a second round of ranking among all those who couldn't make it within the MSCA call, but within the so-called race call. So here you will have a second chance of obtaining funding. So they will not be official MSCA fellows, they will be race fellows, but basically you will have a doctoral network funded with this additional call. And for this you need to tick a box when you submit your proposal, and it will be checked whether you really have this AI component in your research project. So these were the three main novelties for the 2026 call. The doctoral networks is a very competitive call with a low success rate. So I strongly encourage that you get in touch with the national contact point of the country of the coordinator. So of course, everyone who is involved within a doctoral network and is a Swiss institution can contact us at Research, and we provide information and advice, and the proposal review service that is for free is given to Swiss coordinators on a first-come, first-served basis. So please contact us if you are a Swiss institution considering to coordinate a doctoral networks project. Now there are national contact points across Europe and even beyond. And all the NCPs, national contact points, also work together to make together supporting material. So there is this handbook of Radiance, so this is basically like the joint project of NCPs, where you find advice and tips for every section of the proposal writing. So you can already work with the handbook from last year, and an update is also foreseen about 2 months before the call deadline. So this will be around September. And there's also a submission guide that will help you step by step in the process of submitting your proposal. And with that, I wish you all the best in the proposal writing phase. Contact us if you feel stuck or if you have still questions related to doctoral networks. And we at Research are here to support your application.